Hi guys, it's Mr. Wedge, and today we're going to do a jungle painting. So the first thing I'm going to do is put my name on my paper and my class code 2-something. Flip it over. I'm working the wide way because I'm in the jungle and it's a landscape basically. But pick the color you want for the sky. It doesn't have to be blue if you don't want it to be. I'm actually going to take some blue and mix it with a little bit of red on a paper plate and see if I can get a little bit, it's going to be blue, but it's also going to be a little purplish blue. It's a tertiary color. And I've got some white on my plate too, and we're going to use that to mix and make a more realistic sky. So whatever color you want for your sky, get it all ready. And we're just going to paint back and forth across the top of the paper. Make sure you get the corners and the edges, top edge, work your way down. And then while your brush is still dirty, you can just take some white paint, paint underneath it. And then while the paint's still wet, you can blend back and forth and get a nice fade. And it looks more like a realistic sky that way. So I'm working my way down to the bottom of my paper and I'm brushing back and forth as I do. And then when my brush dries out, I'll just get a little more white paint, but I'm not going to wash my brush. And I'll work my way down toward the bottom. Once you get about 2/3 of your paper, you're good. That part's not really important. And then we'll do the horizon. I'm not even going to wash my brush. I'm just going to use it as is and mix a ground color. So we want to make brown anyway. So one way you can make brown, if you don't have it, or if you just want to make your own, you just take some red paint, some yellow paint, and some black paint. Because yellow and red make orange, and black makes the color darker. It makes a shade. And brown is just dark orange. So if I mix them together, I'll get a dark brown. Plus I have blue and white on my brush, so it's all going to mix together and give me a neutral ground color. And then I can just use that to paint the bottom of my paper. Get rid of all the white. I just need a ground. And then I'm going to leave this somewhere to dry. Well, once your landscape painting is dry, we can go in and add some leaves, but we're going to put light and dark on every leaf so it looks realistic. So every single leaf in this jungle that we paint is going to have light and shadow on it. So to do that, we're going to use green for our leaves, but we're going to make tints and shades. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to have 2 piles of green, or 2 puddles, and one's for tints and one's for shades. A tint is just a light version of a color. So to make light green, I'm going to add white to it. So I'll just add white to my green puddle. And then if I want to make dark green, I could add the complement, which is red, or you could just add black. Anyway, shade is just a dark version of that color. So I'm just going to add a little black to my green. Now I need a paper towel because I'm going to stir this up with a brush, and I want to clean my brush in between. So I'm just going to take my bristles of my brush, stir this together, and if you notice, it's green, but it's just a lot lighter now. So that's called a tint. There we go. And I'm going to clean my brush off with my paper towel because I don't want my tints and shades to mix. If they do, they won't look green anymore, they'll just look gray because the white and the black mix. So once you have a clean brush, you can stir your black and green paint together and you'll have dark green. I'm using a flat brush, and this is the one I'm going to paint with. So I can clean my brush off one more time, just squeeze the paint out. And then here's the trick. to painting leaves with light and shadow on them. We're going to use our flat brush. It's got corners, right? So there's a corner of the brush, there's a corner of the brush. I'm going to scoop up some of my tint on one corner of the brush, scoop up some of my shade with my other corner of the brush, and then I'm just going to drag my brush across the paper, and that's a leaf with light and dark on it. So I'm going to keep doing that, but I got to make sure I use the same corners each time. So this tint corner always goes in the tint pile, and the shade corner always goes in the shade puddle. Alright, you got it? And then each time I'm just gonna drag my brush across the paper, and it'll look like it has light and dark on it. Another trick to make it look more leafy is at the very end, right before you're done dragging your brush, you can just give it a little twist and then it'll be pointy at the end. But anyway, that's how you're going to do leaves. We need a lot of them because we want this to look like a jungle, so I'm going to keep going. You notice each time I paint a leaf, I get more paint. So you got to load your brush every single time you paint a leaf. So you can see I did a lot of overlapping where there's leaves on top of each other. That just makes it look more realistic too, because in the jungle you wouldn't just have leaves lined up in a row like they would be in a field. Some grow in front of each other. So I'm going to let this dry, and when it's all dry I can paint animals and flowers into it. Now that my jungle painting's all dry, I can bring some life to it. So I've got some reference pictures to look at of things you might see in the jungle. It doesn't have to just be things in the jungle. You can kind of use your imagination here. Henri Rousseau did. So I've got paper plate with tempera paint on it. If you think about the color wheel, you know, red and yellow are on either side of orange, so that's how you'd make it. So if you want to make orange, you'd scoop up those two colors and mix them together. So I'm mixing colors in new piles, and that way I have my old colors too. Then figure out where you want your animals to be, and it's a good idea to start with the body. And then you can add the head, figure out where the head would be on the animal. And you can add legs and feet. And then any details your animal might have. I'm going to wash my brush with a paper towel, just wipe it off. You don't need water for this. Then you can go back with other colors and add any little details you want. Your animal's not going to look like an animal until it has eyes, so after you wipe your brush you can pick your eye color and add those. So we need at least one animal and at least one flower, some tropical flower. And you know, if you add black to a color it makes it darker, that's a shade. And if you scoop up a color, put it in a new pile and mix white with it, it makes it lighter, and that's called a tint. So you can mix your colors all you want, make whatever makes you happy. Then you can paint in your picture. And I'm using a little round brush for this. So it helps to look at pictures. And we also need a round brush, and a paper towel, tempera paint, and our imagination. Well, I hope you guys enjoy making your own Henri Rousseau jungle painting. Work hard and have fun.